Bang, boom, pow, episode 75. This is kind of a big day. Episode 75. If you're watching on the YouTube, my main man Chopper is wearing the Ballgame hoodie. We'll tell you why in just a minute. But how does it feel, episode 75? Should we have a pizza party, my brother?
I mean, it feels right. It's a landmark, right? 75th, 3/4 of a century, I believe, if my math serves me correctly, and I think it does. Yeah, it's awesome. It doesn't feel like 75, my guy. It's pretty awesome. It's fun.
You look back to number one, and it was just you and me sitting in my old place, just chatting about what is this podcast going to look like? Well, what's it going to be called? And what are we going to talk about? Are we going to have any guests? And we came to the conclusion, I think, trying to make coaching better is a great place to start. We've had great coaches that have mentored us, and we wanted to shine a light on them. And so 75 straight episodes, folks. We've been doing this. So right out of the gates. Thank you, patrons. We have had a big group of Patreon patrons, supporters that keep the lights on. Tommy Gold is rocking some artwork, rocking some art for the YouTube clips. And so we're able to get him through college a little bit with some of that funding. So thank you all. We've got a Zoom scheduled for later this month with all of you again, just to chat. But how you doing here as we approach Thanksgiving, Chad Chop?
Very thankful. It's Thanksgiving, and this is the time of season where you're thankful and you appreciate everything the good Lord's given you and your family and opportunities to coach and just all the mistakes that we've made that we've learned from. So very fortunate. Very excited for camps coming up for me here in town in December. We'll have 3 sessions in December, starting in the middle of December all the way through the first week of January.
And let's say it's the first time somebody's heard this podcast. What is in town for Chad Chop?
And it's going to be at James Cray. So for those that know the area, it'll be here in Oro Valley, Arizona, right next to CDO High School at CDO Little League is where we're going to have the camp. And it's a great space. 2 fields, porta potties, an actual bathroom. I think there's 2 bathrooms now, actually. So it's got to have it. And it's going to be a ton of fun. I like to say we put the fun in fundamentals, bang. And we're just going to have a blast. It's going to be nicknames. It's going to be fun. It's going to be baseball IQ. And we're going to be putting in work. We're going to be playing games, giving away prizes, basically throwing a birthday party infused with some baseball. So it's going to be a ton of fun. And then the developmental league is filling up fast. So we're really excited about that on Sundays.
This. Break it down. You touched on it last week, but you noticed a need, kind of that middle ground between Little League and travel ball. Is that right?
Yeah, I just feel like there needs to be more reps, even for some of our club ball folks. A number of my athletes are signing up for it because you're going to get high quality reps with kind of that watchful eye, right? Of like, we know what to look for as coaches. So you want your kids to get those reps where we can see the little things. Oh, little Johnny hesitated instead of getting to the bag right away. So just kind of teaching them where to be on every play. It's going to be 5 on 5 on 5. So there's no sitting. You're either hitting, playing infield, or playing outfield. And you're not just playing outfield or just playing infield or just hitting. You're doing everything. And it's going to be fast paced. It's going to be fun. And we're going to give away monthly prizes. And so I'm really excited about it. I think it's just going to raise the bar really quickly within our community for baseball IQ and fundamentals and having fun. And so I think there's a real need for that because no matter what your talent level is, if you love baseball and you can raise your baseball IQ, which you'll do with reps and get better fundamentally, you're going to be able to play this game through high school. And that's what we want for kids. If they want to be able to keep playing, we want to give them the tools and equip them so that when they get to high school, they have an opportunity to make their high school team and continue their dream. And so I'm really excited. I think it's going to be a really, really impactful opportunity. It's going to be Sundays from 2 to 4 o'clock at Push Ridge High School. And I just think it's going to be an awesome opportunity. So we're really excited.
I love this 5 on 5 on 5 deal where there's constant movement. I went to a fall league game not far from my home here in Orange County, and God bless the parents, God bless the coaches, God bless the umpires and the players, all of them. But when you've got an 8-year-old game where it's kid pitch, kid catch, it's just quiet. It's slow, it's quiet. Then there's a foul ball, which is kind of exciting. But then I look out at
Yeah.
that center fielder and that right fielder, and they haven't done much at all in a couple of minutes.
No.
And if we're doing our job as coaches, we want to bring them back next year. We want to show them this game can be fun. Now, as we get into high school and college and elite baseball, there's never a dull moment. There's always a coach giving a sign, and the intricacies of the game really start to become clear. But at a young age, there's got to be movement. I am currently creating an online course teaching coaches how to coach a season of T-ball practices. So look out for that, coaches. But the main thing is, can we get 3 coaches at each practice for a 12-kid practice where we can split them up into groups of 4, and there's constant movement, constant action. And then, okay, as soon as the energy level is about to peak, catch that wave and rotate the station so they're on to the next thing. That's a big part of nurturing this love of the game for kids, because you go watch a soccer game, a lot of movement. You go watch a basketball game, a lot of movement. We in the baseball loving family, we've got to keep up with the Joneses, so to speak. So I love that. Just break it down a little more for me, what you got planned on Sundays with this 5v5v5 to keep it moving.
Yeah, well, we'll start with some form running. Very lucky to have the Diesel, my wife, teaching form running, which is a huge deal.
What an athlete.
And it's awesome. But it's one of those things too, where it's like, if you're raising everyone's athletic ceiling, that's only going to help them. They're going to be more confident. They're going to get injured less. They're going to excel, not just on the baseball field. They're going to be great on the soccer field, the basketball court, the football field. Just overall confidence and health is a huge deal. So we'll start there. A little bit of catch play, some rundown mechanics, which are a big deal. When you get kid in a rundown, you want to collect that out, and it's doable. It's just having a few set rules, creating a throwing lane, getting the runner going full speed, trying to get them to have to change direction, giving up the baseball with someone with a little bit of movement, not a ton, but a little bit of pace to catch the ball and put a tag on them. So go from there. Then we're going to do a few minutes of stations and finish with 5v5v5, where we're getting live reps. You're going to get close to 12 at bats every game. So like it's
so you've
awesome.
got 5 defenders, 5 batters, and then 5 guys doing what?
You've got 5 batters, 5 in the infield, and then we've got 5 in the outfield. So what we'll do with those 2, we'll rotate them with some 2-ball. So we'll get it down to 3 in the outfield, but they're still active, where they're working some 2-ball, they're working some hand-eye, they're having fun. We'll make it a competition. And so the biggest thing is, to your point, we don't want anyone standing around. And so you're constantly moving them, you're putting them in position and making sure they see, like when a ball's hit to right field, where everyone should be on the field. And when they're in the infield, that's great. When they go to outfield, the next group's in infield, and that same situation is going to happen. And you get to the next wave of 5 gets to see, okay, where do I need to be on this play? And it's going to be taught in a positive way. You know how we do it. There's no yelling. There's no screaming. It's fun. And so when you're learning and you're having fun, you want to come back. And so it's, like I said, it's something that I'm really, really excited about. There's definitely a need for it. In fall ball is great, but it's, in a way, I don't want to overstate it, but I do think it's doing our game a disservice.
It could be done better.
The game's boring. Yeah, because it's boring, because kids are learning how to throw strikes. Meanwhile, everyone else is standing there watching 4 balls in a row, 8 balls in a row, 12 balls in a row. It's really boring. And I think if anyone's being honest, they can see it and be like, my word, this is really boring. Even for us guys that love baseball. I remember watching my oldest in fall ball, and I was like, in the Bay Area, I was like, this is killing the game. This is awful. So kids want to hit.
I lean towards as their T-ball, even 6, 7 years old, keep it 4-on-4 and have the other four
Yeah.
kids doing a batting practice station or doing something else. As you get a little bit older and they start learning about cutoffs and what the jobs of the outfielders are, then maybe you can go 6-on-6 and work your way up. Last night, I had my oldest group, my advanced group. We had 14. So we had 7-on-7 game. These are 11, 12, 13-year-olds that know the game. They've been through my whole process of beginner, intermediate. Now they're advanced. And I was the pitcher and the catcher. And I side tossed the entire game. All 7 batters batted. Then we switched. We got 6 innings in 52 minutes.
Yeah.
It was just bang, bang, bang. Now, you did have the one kid saying, hey, can I kid pitch? I want to pitch. And I was like, love your energy. We're not going to do that for this 52-minute game, but I am going to partner you up with somebody your skill set who's got catcher's gear. And you guys, you can get your own bullpen in with him. How about that?
Right.
So as far as teaching love of play and getting these kids moving, man, it was a beautiful thing. And I made sure every player, you couldn't play the outfield 3 times in a row, and you couldn't play the same position twice. And I mean that as soon as an out is made or time is called, next batter in 3, next batter in 2, next batter in 1, and we got 6 innings of baseball in. They got 6 at bats. Everybody got to play all the different positions. I'm doing 50 push-ups if anybody turns a ground ball double play. The energy is high. And then, yes, there was no doubt I was heeding Dan Spring's advice yesterday. Anytime even an elite player, 12, 13-year-old, makes a mistake, I had to find something good first to say. Loved your down and ready position, but your angle towards the ball, let's talk about that, right? Loved your energy, how you're cheering for the batter. Now, let's talk about you getting a little angry when they struck out. You have the energy of 20 people. Now let's train that energy into something positive for your teammates. So at the end of the 52-minute game, I had our 2 captains give out awards to somebody on the other team. Who inspired you from the other team? Now we kept score, and it was like 13-11, a lot of action. And one team lost, and there were a couple of tears on the team that lost. And my comment for that is, first of all, my thought is good. I'd much rather have a kid that cares than a kid that doesn't want to be there, doesn't care if they win or lose. Love that. I was that kid. I never liked to lose. But what's the alternative here? We didn't play this game at all. So I want you to find somebody on the other team, give them a fist bump and say, I'm glad this happened. And I'm going to try and beat you tomorrow. Right. That's the idea. So yeah, I really enjoyed that, but I couldn't do a 7-on-7 for 5-year-olds, for 6-year-olds. You gotta kind of read the room and work your way up. So as I put this online course together, I'm really going to go step by step. How do you run 12 practices for 4-year-olds? How do you run 12 practices for 5-year-olds? All the way up. Because I think, like you said, there's a need. There's a need where instead of kids throwing 4 balls, then coach comes in and each inning is taking 42 minutes. Man, let's get each kid 6 at-bats in an hour. Yep. How about that?
Love it.
So there you go. And there'll be a geyser of different stations. I like to break the kids up into groups of 4 or 5 as soon as I can. And hopefully there's enough parents or coaches on board with each team that you can have a station in right, a station in left, a station at home plate where it's an energetic mom or dad out there that's throwing fly balls or throwing ground balls, something of that nature. So I must say our guest today, who is just about to hop on here, he's I think he's probably come across your social media feed maybe 3 to 4 times more than my videos do. I know he is definitely first up on my algorithm. And as far as nurturing this love of play for younger people, man, I'm not afraid to call him my younger brother, possibly even my nephew in the world of baseball. It's Coach RAC, guys. RAC, you're here. Can you see us? Can you hear us? How you doing?
I can see you, I can hear you, and I'm doing great and honored by the words. I'm
Buddy
happy to be your
Rowe.
nephew any day.
Oh man, meet my buddy Chad Chop, Chopper, Rack, two of the best coaches I know. And you have some ties to Southern California, right, Chopper?
Oh yeah, I went to Tustin High School, and I went to San Diego State, and when I transferred from San Diego State, I was very close to going to Biola, and then I ended up going to Vanguard and played against Biola, and you went to Biola,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Okay. Super
Yeah.
cool. Yeah. I went to UC Riverside first, and then I went to Biola after that. So yeah, sounds like we have similar stories. We played against you said San Diego State.
Yep.
Yeah, yeah. We played against them, and then yeah, at Biola we played against Vanguard. So
Yeah,
that's
right.
cool.
Yeah, you're a lot younger than I am. You're wearing a younger man's clothes, as they say. But yeah, it's pretty cool. So I love your videos. Every time you come up, I look forward to it. I love your positive spin on everything. You're coaching the heart too, and that's what we love. That's what we're focused on. So we're really excited to have you on. Thank you for being here.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Thanks for having me, man. I appreciate it.
Rack, we got to meet last year at Not Your Average Baseball Camp right here in Orange County. We've got year 2 coming up in just what is it, a couple of weeks now, early January in Dallas. I'm fired up to see the old crew again. Are you fired up for Dallas?
Oh, it's going to be so much fun. I mean, it just felt, it was wild. Like the end of last NYABC, it felt like I had known those guys for years, and I had just met them a few days before. So, yeah, it's going to be so much fun getting everybody back in the same place. And I think the kids are just going to have a blast. I think it's going to be super special. We already got several, parents reaching out to us because this camp will be free. And so we got lots of parents just saying, hey, like, if we're actually letting everybody know this week who got picked, and it's a whole random system, but we're letting everybody know this week so they can make travel plans. But I mean, there's parents saying, oh, my kid is just begging me every day, please, let him be able to come to this camp. And so it'll just be cool to get to spend some time with kids, and yeah, but getting that group together again is gonna be a lot of fun. I'm excited.
Have you gotten used to the idea that these kids watch you on a daily basis, and when they do get to meet you in person, you're like Brad Pitt or George Clooney to them? I mean, does that get normal? Is that normal for you yet?
No, it's still not normal at all. It's so funny because I remember the first time I got recognized, I was in a Chipotle, and some I was in line thinking about what I was gonna get. I had landed on a burrito bowl, and the guy in front of me was like, oh, you're and this was before I changed my name to Coach RAC. So my name is just Robert Anthony Cruz, and a little less memorable, but he was like, you're Robert Anthony Cruz, aren't you? I was like, yeah, like, what's up? And I thought maybe we had known each other at some point, and he was like, no, I watch your videos. Well, no, really? Okay, cool. Thanks,
Yeah.
man. He was like, can I get a picture? So I was just as taken aback and caught off guard as he was. But yeah, I still get caught off guard. I'm still trying to find what's the best way to like interact. Cause even like me, I don't know, like, I don't know what I'm supposed to do. Am I supposed to take a picture with you, or like, like what are we supposed to do here? So, yeah, that's been quite the learning curve for me that I'm still kind of trying to figure out, but it is fun though.
The power of social media. Yeah, I think the first time it happened for me was in an airport, and somebody like did a double take, and they're like, you're coach, you're the TikTok guy. And I was like, no, I'm not the TikTok guy. I don't think so. And then they're like, yeah, you're Coach Baseball. And I'm like, oh, yeah, yep, yes, I am. I am that guy. Okay. I get Coach Baseball
Coach
a lot.
Baseball.
Mr. Baseball, Coach Baseball, Teacher Baseball. Because the words Coach Ballgame, you don't really hear those two words together. So
yeah,
it does not, it knocks me out of my element a little bit, but then I just go right to the kid. And a lot of times it's the dad too, because a lot of dads watch this content that we make with their kid, and I immediately say, hey dude, what's your nickname? What do you love most about baseball? And it kind of puts them in a comfortable place. and then we can have a little discussion. But I'm honored by it myself. But if you don't know Coach RAC, listener, let's be honest, you do by now. If you listen to this pod, you've seen many of his videos. I love the way you've got high quality feed, high quality content, which must come from some sort of artistic background. I take it, my man. Did you study video photography growing up?
Yeah, my buddy, his name was Forrest, and he got into photography when I was in high school, and I was like, oh, Forrest is pretty cool, and the photos he's taking look pretty cool. So I followed suit and got a camera. So when I was 15, was I 15? I think I was 16 when I shot my first wedding. So I got into photography when I was like 14, 15, started by just my sister and I going in the backyard, taking photos and, just figuring out how to edit and all that fun stuff. And then it transitioned into wedding photography, and I did that through high school and college. And that was kind of my way of making money. So I already had the equipment and kind of the knowledge with photo. With video, I didn't really know how to do anything except make the picture look good and set it up nice. That like I could do that. The actual video editing was a whole learning curve, and that's what I've been kind of learning the past year and a half. But yeah, definitely had a photo background and already had all of the equipment, which was really helpful when I started, transitioning into making videos.
When you talk about teaching love of play and getting kids to fall in love with baseball, I think in this day and age, being able to create a high level 30-second video is everything, because that's about all the time you have for these kids' attention span before they're on to the next thing. And so having guys like you and Coach Bougie and all the crew with the NYABC creating such great content, it challenges me too. Like, I got to step up my game as well to get everything dialed in, because these kids, there are a billion things they could be doing with their iPad or their phone. And the fact that some of these guys that we coach with, that we'll coach with in January in Dallas, getting 5-10 million views, that's so great for baseball, man. You got to be proud. You got to feel like a proud father that you are, that you have something to do about this, huh?
Yeah, dude, God's been so gracious. It's like I didn't intend on yeah, like when I started making videos, I didn't know it could turn into something like this. I remember talking with my wife about it. This is just over a year ago, but I was like, yeah, like I really think I have some good things to share, and I feel like I had so many not great coaches growing up where I was like, man, I wish coaches kind of had a better idea of the kind of impact that they're making for good and for bad, because so many of the experiences I had, like I find myself having to still work through a couple of things, that I went through with some bad coaches, and I'm still having to work through those a little bit now. And then at the same time, I'm still reaping the benefits of a lot of coaches that poured into me when I played. And so it's like, I look back and I'm like, whoa, those were like very formative. At the time, I thought, oh, well, it's just a bad coach, or, oh, I'm just having a hard time with this, and I didn't think it was that big of a deal. And then you take a look back, once you're zoomed out a little bit and you're like, oh no, those kind of shaped who I was a little bit. So I'm learning more and more the huge impact that coaches and mentors can have in kids' lives, and they don't even realize how powerful it is. And so it's not something to take lightly. It's something to, it's something to take seriously, because it really is shaping who these people turn out to be. So, that's I think first and foremost, it's almost like sobering the level of responsibility that comes with it, because again, I don't totally, it still takes me back when people recognize who I'm in public, and I'm realizing, oh, like while I'm sleeping, there's lots of people watching what I'm creating and learning from it, and for better or for worse. So I'm like, there's a certain level of like, okay, I'm pray that the videos I make that aren't helpful and aren't good for people will be ignored. And I hope the ones that are helpful will be taken and learned from and, used for good. But yeah, all that to say, a certain level of responsibility, but yeah, definitely proud of to be able to be a part of this though, because it's necessary and needed to be said. And I think even now, so deeply entrenched in the baseball coaching culture is this, I don't know how to describe it other than maybe like, I don't know. I wouldn't want to say toxic masculinity, but maybe something along those lines. And like, you'll see that. And it's just, it makes kids go into their shell and think they have to be like everybody else. And yeah, I just, if I can be a part of, encouraging kids who, you know, who maybe are a little bit different. I mean, I was homeschooled. I was pretty different, and into photography in high school isn't necessarily the cool thing, but I don't know why not. I'm sure there's lots of other kids out there. Like there's been kids. I mean, for instance, I lead this youth group, and again, I'm getting on this whole rabbit trail here, but I co-lead this youth group on Wednesdays out at Friends Church in Yorba Linda, and I've been doing that for. I've had my group. They're seniors now, but they were freshmen when I started leading this group, and we had this one kid in our group, and the first day I met him, he just like gravitated towards me because I didn't think his Minecraft was weird, because I played Minecraft too. I still do. And so him and I talked Minecraft for a while, and he started showing me photos, and he was like, hey, check this out. Like I took he loved taking photos of trains. That was like his thing. He loved taking photos, and he loved trains, and he's just,
I know what his nickname would be. I like that.
Oh yeah. I bet you would. But yeah, so he just starts showing me pictures he's taking of trains that would drive by on the local tracks, and his little model train set, and he just loved taking photos, and but he was, he didn't really hang out with the other kids in the group, whatever. But him and I just hit it off right away. But like, I want to make those kids feel comfortable and feel like they don't have to like make an excuse for themselves, and like, just, if you enjoy what you enjoy, and go for it. And then in the same sense on a baseball field, like, you don't have to be the traditional, clean cut baseball player, and you're not just a number on the field. Like, you can have some personality out there, and that's okay. Like, so yeah, I guess there's a lot of changes that I want to make, but it's fun to be able to do it one video at a time. And it's also so forgiving, because it's like, if you make a video that's not great, or that maybe it wasn't that engaging or interesting, and maybe you thought it was good, but no one else did, it's like, that's all right. I can just make another video tomorrow. So
yeah,
it's cool. The long-term impact. Yeah.
And I think the impact that caught me by surprise is, as I started to create content, I thought it was for the kids, but it has morphed more into the adults, more to the parents. And with your content, I love when you teach the three things you can't do when you're fielding a ground ball, if you want to field 98 out of 100 instead of 93 out of 100. But I think even more is the content where you're preaching to a Little League coach about the psychology of coaching and how to teach love of play and win the heart. And when I met Chopper, we connected on that. How can we make youth coaching better? Because our game stands on the backs of those electricians and those plumbers and those nurses that are out there volunteering their time to try and coach. And God knows they're not trying to sabotage their own child or all these kids that are on the field. But when you're uneducated on the psychology of children or the youth, and you get out there in a high leverage moment, you're probably going to scream. You're probably going to yell. You're probably going to regret some of the things that you say to these kids. Meanwhile, they're walking away from the game because of what happened. So once again, Chopper, I'm not going to commandeer this whole thing. I do want to break down RAC's story. He's got quite a story. Think Daniel Nava story, if you will, as far as his path to where he's gotten. But Chopper, the floor is yours for RAC here. Get us going.
Yeah, I do have a question. I do want to comment on something that RAC just touched on, and it's winning the heart. So for me, coaching that that upper level club, right, where you have some accountability, right? If you're not having success, there's a chance that you're going to come off the field, right? But still trying to navigate the heart. So I've had multiple conversations recently with parents, and I keep coming back to like, dude, I love your kid, right? I unconditionally love your son. I think it's important for them to learn how to navigate that pressure. But at the same time, to never lose sight that there's an unconditional love from their coach. And so I don't know that I have it all figured out. I told parents that last night. Like, I'm not sure the way I do it's necessarily right, in the sense of, instead of batting all 12, bat 10.
And that's
then
powerful
if a kid,
in that. Sorry to cut you off, but there's power in
oh yeah,
that
Yeah.
humanity that you don't know everything.
yeah, it's looking through a completely different lens. You know, when I coached 10 years ago, it was about winning and disciplining those you care about, and kind of making it kind of hard on kids, because I thought that's how they would grow. But now it's so much about still having a level of accountability. But at the end of the day, if you have to pick one, making sure they know that they're loved and they're fearfully and wonderfully made, and they're made in the image of God, and they matter. And you hope they don't end up going to Friends Church in Yorba Linda, because that was our rivals when I went to Calvary Church of Santa Ana.
I love it.
But no, but question I have for you, Coach RAC, is and their Friends is amazing, by the way, like the amazing school, church and school. The question I have for you is, through your playing days, what were some ways that you navigated kind of the failures of the game, and how did you still be able to be a good teammate, even if it maybe wasn't going your way, to get out of your own way?
Yeah. Well, I don't think I was always the best teammate. I think,
Me neither.
yeah. I think, so I think the times I navigated failure well were, later on in my career. A good example of me handling it poorly would have been my freshman year of college. You know, I got there and was, I had been homeschooled, didn't play that highly competitive baseball, and then managed to get onto a Division I roster. And then it was like, I expected to still be able to be one of the better players there. And I just wasn't going to do that my freshman year. And so, you know, I didn't play that much. I still got to play, which, you know, in hindsight, it's like, wow, I got to play as a freshman. That's awesome. But I think during that whole year, I just had some very unrealistic expectations for what I was capable of that year. And so as a result, it was like, you know, me not playing turned probably me into complaining a little bit, or, you know, started looking to other people and thinking it was their fault. And it was nobody's fault. It was just, I wasn't there yet. I was a freshman. I just needed to be a good teammate that year and be ready to step up when it was my turn, you know, whatever time that was. So I think that was a time where I probably handled it poorly. And I think there were days where I maybe handled it well, and I did try to go about my business and just work hard, control what I can control, but it's hard when you're in it, you know? But then I think when I handled it better, though, when I was at Biola, and that was when I started to realize that my identity, or who I was, you know, had to be separate from baseball to some degree, because if who you are is wrapped up in baseball and how you perform, you can't control how you perform. And so your day and how good your day is going to be directly tied to how well you performed that day. And if you struck out 4 times that day at the plate, you know, it's going to be hard to go enjoy dinner with your family afterwards if that's who you are. But if who you are is someone outside of baseball who has a family that loves them and all of these relationships, that's what makes up who you are as a person, then and baseball is just something that you happen to play, a game you happen to play, then you can have those terrible games or those great games. And then after the game, still go to Del Taco afterwards with your parents and enjoy a half-pound green burrito. So I guess what I learned my, you know, junior, senior year of college was the results aren't going to be in my hands. And I can't control them entirely. I can control, you know, obviously my work ethic, but can't control the results. So I have to be okay with failing. So in order to be okay with failing, who I am deep down has to be tied to something else, not just baseball. Baseball can be a part of who I am and something that I do, but it can't be everything. And then I have to be okay with failing, and I have to be okay with the results not going my way, and still be thankful to even have an opportunity to play. And once that was more my mentality, I took so much pressure off myself, and I definitely still wanted to win, and I still was fighting for a spot and trying to get signed against the odds. And so there still was definite pressure there, and I didn't always do a perfect job at it. But I think when that was more my mentality, took a ton of pressure off myself, and I was probably a much more enjoyable player to play with at that time, I'd say.
Yeah, I love that. I hadn't really ever failed in high school, in college, and I got to pro ball, and even my first year of pro ball, I led the league in hits. So I'm like, oh, this is incredible, you know?
Yeah.
But then I go to the Florida State League and I hit 100 points lower, and I got a true glimpse of my character through that season. And it wasn't great, you know, because it's easy to be happy when you're winning accolades and everyone loves you. But when you start really struggling, you get to see your attitude change, and mine changed. And it was like, wow, I can control what I can control. I love that you said that. And it was after that year, it was like, you know what? I'm going to double down no matter what the results are. I'm going to be a good teammate. I'm going to encourage others. I'm going to work hard, and I'm going to bring a good vibe and a good energy. And that's controllable. And that's outside of the results that you get on the field. And over time, if you can stay that way, you give yourself the best chance to succeed.
Yeah.
And so I love that. Controlling the controllables is a huge deal. Coach Ballgame, what do you got?
Well, yeah, and just creating that culture as a parent, as a coach for your team, for your child, to let them know that's not your identity. The 5 for 5 is not your identity. The 0 for 5 with 4 punchies is not your identity. Who you are as a young man, as a young woman, the kind of student you are, the server of your community, that the way you make people feel when they walk away from you, that's your identity. That's who you are. This is just a game. So create that culture. We're 75 episodes deep into trying to nurture that culture for youth coaches. I said earlier the Daniel Nava story, if you're not familiar, check it out. But Nava was very small growing up, was a team manager in high school, even a team manager in college because of his size. And then he hit a growth spurt and made it to the show, hit a grand slam on the first pitch he ever saw in baseball. To an extent, you had the same story growing up. Now you're taller than me by a good bit, but you weren't always 6 foot tall. This praying every night to just be 5'8". That really stirred me up. Let's start there. What were those prayers all about?
Yeah. So my dad, for context, my dad is 5'5", 5'6". He's got 5 brothers, and the tallest of which is 5'8". So my initial dream was to be an Olympian in gymnastics. That was what I wanted to do. And I did gymnastics for a couple of years. And then it was hard to find a men's team in our area that just weren't as common as, a competitive women's team. So I had to transition to something. My dad was like, you should try baseball. So we drove by Reed Park Little League in Riverside and watched the Angels versus the Dodgers. And I didn't know any of the rules of baseball at all. Like, I saw someone hit a foul ball behind over the backstop, and I was like, why isn't that a home run? My dad was like, oh, we got to teach you a lot of things here. So anyways, and this is when I'm 8, turning 9 years old at this point. And so I start playing baseball then, and within like a month, I'm like, okay, I want to be a professional baseball player, obviously. So that was my new dream and goal. And so, as I was working towards that, I was one of the shortest kids on the team. And I think it was probably when I was like 10, 11, 12, 13 years old. It was a very frequent prayer of mine that I would get to at least 5'8", because in my head, I was like, there are big leaguers, there's David Eckstein. There's guys that I've seen that can make it all the way up there. Not easily, but they can make it as long as they're like taller than, 5'6", 5'7" range. And I was like, my tallest uncle's 5'8". That's not too big of an ask. I think if I could get to 5'8", that'd be awesome. I somehow just hit the craziest growth spurt when I was 14. 13 to 14 years old, I went from barely touching 5 feet, not quite even there, to like 5'9", 5'10". By the time I was like 14. And then when I was 15, 16, I hit 6 foot, and then it took me a while to like fill out from there. I was just really skinny, but yeah, that was so cool. And again, it's one of those things, like, if I look back, there are so many answered prayers and things that turned out so much better than I could have even drawn up. And I've got a little journal now that writes those things down, because those kinds of very special things happen way more than I would think that they would. And as I've started writing those things down, I'm starting to, and I look back through my journal, I notice like, wow, there's been so much blessing in my life that I'm prone to forget on any given day. I could be, experiencing the most blessed, amazing, tremendous day of my life. And then the day after that, I'll be like, all right, well, it's another day. So it's so easy to get into that mentality. So anyways, yeah, that's the story of how I exceeded 5'8". But yeah, now I'm being intentional about writing those things down, because they happen so much, it seems.
Well, getting to meet you and getting to see you work in person, at the high energy you have, the work ethic that you have, I think that's pretty clear with your content as well. I would imagine these obstacles that you've overcome, and there's many of them, they have created this almost chip on your shoulder at this point to wake up and create some great content and change lives for the better. And I would imagine getting to meet your mom and dad as well last year, they nurtured that as you went through a growth spurt, and you went to UC Riverside and batted like 100, transferring to Biola only to have COVID hit. Then you get signed by the Nats, and we will break this moment down because there's a great video you posted that just went completely viral. But after that, getting cut. So there's all of these like highs and then lows and highs and lows. Was it mom? Was it dad that I guess nurtured you through each low and let you know there's life lessons through this and there's gold at the end of it all?
Yeah, I think that my parents were less hands-on once I got into those. They were like cheerleaders from the sideline. Like, you got this, whatever you want to set out to accomplish, you can do it. We believe in you. You got this. Whatever you want to do, we're behind it. And they're still that way.
Take note, parents.
And so
take note.
I think that was, I mean, yeah, like there's just genius in that I didn't even realize at the time. But when I was growing up, it was like anything I wanted to do is possible. And if I, I would never, ever from my parents hear, okay, let's be realistic. Like, this is a little far-fetched. You realize like very few people actually make it to pro baseball, right? Like, there was never any of that, right? And right out the gate, when I started doing gymnastics, I wanted to be an Olympian, and I'd watch Olympics videos on VHS over and over again. And yeah, they were like, yeah, you could do it, absolutely. And my mom was always super over the top supportive of it. And I think there's almost like, and I realized that not every person's is physically gifted as I was, and all that. Not every kid's going to make it to the show. And I didn't make it all the way to the big leagues either. But at the same time, like, seeing the way that my parents dealt with me, it was like, they showed me unconditional love. So even when I failed, it was okay. It wasn't a big deal. They weren't like, it wasn't their dream they were enforcing on me. It was like, they wanted to see kind of what my dreams were. And then they were just like, all right, you got this, whatever you need, we're behind it. And it made it okay for me to fail. And I think as I look back in the long, like, as you know, if I look back, and now as I look at other people that I know, I see so many people who are scared to go for something and scared to try something big because it might not be wise, or, and my parents were okay with me making the big leap and messing up, and they would still love me the same. So, yeah.
Huge. That's a big deal. We talk about that a lot. Just how can you create a culture, whether you're the parent or the coach, that shortstop is free to fail. If you're going to make mistakes, let's make them aggressively. If you're going to strike out swinging, go down looking.
Yeah.
And even if you do go down looking, I'm going to love you unconditionally. Like, create that culture, parents and coaches. There's genius in that. I love how you phrase that. There's genius in being that cheerleader for your child, where you can do anything, and you'll probably fail at most of it, but that's okay too.
Yeah.
I love that. Push pause, listener, if you haven't seen this video. When RAC gets signed by the Washington Nationals, he and I'm guessing your dad's a mechanic, or he works at a tire shop, and you go in and you surprise him with this Washington Nationals hat. Push pause, go watch it. It got 1 billion views. I think you were on ABC News or something as the person of the week. Is that pretty accurate as well?
Yeah,
All from
yeah.
this video. My question is, why did this moment? And I love your dad, and when I shook his hand, he was so complimentary to me, and I mean he just moves you to tears just being around him. He's a very soulful man. But why did that moment resonate with the world?
Yeah, I think I don't know, to be honest. I think because it was real, and people could sense that. Like, I guess I wasn't even planning on recording it. I didn't have a social media page at that time. Like, my only social media page was my like wedding photography account. Like, that was it. But I was like, oh, Bob, this would be cool if you recorded this just so we could have this as a memory. And I made sure she saw the little red thing at the top, because you never know when mom's recording something. But she recorded it, and I think that I had so many people reaching out to me and messaging me about how it brought them to tears, and I think it's probably because there is something very special about the father-son relationship in baseball, because at least in my case, my it was a way that my dad and I bonded a lot. Like, he would get off work and drive to Reed Park, that one field where we drove past, initially. But that was like our field that we could take batting practice on. And there was that one field that was big enough to allow me to take BP through high school, college, And so all through college, I mean, even like day before season, I would always take batting practice with my dad on that field. That was like my get right BP, because I could always hit his well. And so I think that, I know that at least on that day, like, I was pretty down because I hadn't talked to a scout in months. And I assumed I wasn't going to get signed. And so I was trying to figure out what to do for the next year, because I just finished my senior year, and it was like, if you're a fifth year, you can't really get signed too easily. And I was already a senior, which is hard enough, because COVID was the year before. And so it's like, all right, if I don't get signed here, this is, pretty much it. And I hadn't talked to a scout at all. And so I knew my dad and my mom had been watching the draft tracker, to see. I was up in my room playing Minecraft. And great therapy, by the way. But I was playing Minecraft, and they were watching the draft tracker, and my name didn't show up on there. So I knew that my dad was probably like, like, just bummed for me, not like, for his own sake. But my mom and dad were both just kind of feeling for me, because they knew how much I wanted it. And so in that video, getting to see how excited he got, still makes me tear up a little bit, but
It's
it was special.
so great. It's so great, man. Really good moment. And then to be honest with you, meeting him before I watched that video, it all made total sense. Like, he just kind of wears his heart on his sleeve, and just a great man, a great baseball dad. That had to have been a huge high. And then immediately you get COVID, and you have to take 3 weeks where you got to be by yourself, and you can't be playing the game that you love, where with the guys that you've been dreaming of doing this with. You finally get out of that, you play a year, and then you get cut. There was a drive, I believe, across the country after
Yeah.
getting cut, and I think that might interest me more than anything else. To see where you are now. Everybody's like millions of followers, creates great content, impacting the baseball world. He must have had an awesome life all the way. Unpack that drive, where you go from the highest high to the absolute lowest low. Yeah, talk about that
Yeah.
3,000-mile drive.
Yeah, I got called into the office, and but the look on the guy's face, like, I immediately knew what he was going to say, but it was like, I just still, at the time though, I was like, I don't know how, because the day before I had played pretty well. I had a couple doubles, and I had just been moved up a group, in spring training. They had like 4 or 5 groups, whatever. They just moved me to a higher group. Doesn't really mean anything, but like, all indications were that things were going well. My exit meeting the previous year, they were like, we love you. We're excited about you. We think you got what it takes at the plate. And of course, they probably say that to everybody, but, just all of my instincts were telling me everything was going good. And yeah, I got called into the office, and I was like more shocked than anything. I didn't cry right away. I did later. But right then I was like, really? Okay. And I at that point, they already made up their mind. There was no point in me being like, are you sure? I was like, all right, well, that's what it is, and pack my stuff. So yeah, my buddy and I, Brian, both got cut together. So, and him and I were roommates at one point, and he's a believer and just a good dude. So we kind of spent the rest of the day together. We got breakfast at a local spot, and I packed up, and they were like, you got to be out of the room by tomorrow morning. So I was like, all right, will do. So I had just unpacked my last box because I drove in my wife's car, a Honda, because my Buick would not make it across the country. There's no shot. So I drove my wife's Honda, and that one made it. And I it's a hatchback, and so I literally just unpacked my last everything, because I have this whole computer set up and all that. I wasn't even making content at the time, but I still had this whole setup. And so yeah, I had to that night just go pack all of my things and get the car ready again. The next morning I left at like 5 in the morning, started driving. And yeah, I probably for about 3 hours of the drive, I was just like sobbing. And then like my mom called and like tried to talk with me a little bit. I was like, oh, I don't want to talk right now, Mom. I just want to drive. So I stopped at the time I started getting into golf. So I hit, and it's like in the fall, or at this point, no, it wasn't fall, it was spring, but it was still like wintry. It was cold. But I still just stopped. I stopped in Tennessee at some course. I stopped in Texas at some course, I went and visited my sister and her husband. They live in Illinois. So it was just this whole drive with me and myself. And I think there was a lot of like, what I had learned up to at that point was you can't really speed up the grieving process. Like you can't, like, at some point you have to like sit with what you're feeling and just deal with it. You could avoid it for a while, and then it's just going to eventually resurface. And so again, I've had a relatively easy life, I think, compared to so many people, but at least from what I've experienced and what I've learned about grieving, when there's something like that that just sucks and there's no way around it, you kind of just got to sit in it and let it out and cry and feel it and do that. So I knew that at the time, and so I saw the drive as an opportunity more than anything. It was like, well, I get, I don't even know how many hours now just to myself and my thoughts. And I can pray through what I'm feeling and cry and, and just take the whole drive to work through it. And by the time I got home, still wasn't feeling great, obviously, but there was something special about that drive that that it was like a new feeling that I never felt before. And it was a good one. And I don't know, it took about 2 months after getting home to like fully decide, like, okay, I'm moving on from baseball, because I thought about playing independent ball and there's all these options, right? But after about 2 months, there was one day where I finally resolved to move on to something else. And I guess for some context as to why it took me a little bit of time, like, so my wife and I moved in with my parents, and we were just kind of waiting to see if another team picks me up and all this stuff. A lot of in between waiting and uncertainty. But another factor was I had, after that video blew up with my dad, 150,000 people that followed me on TikTok to keep up with my career. And then I got released so quick. So I was embarrassed about that. It was like, all these people are like, wanting to see how I do. And oh yeah, sure enough, kid got cut already. Like, that's a bummer. Like, it was like, it almost was like it tainted the original story of like that moment with my dad. And so sitting with that was hard, because I was like, I don't know do I owe them an update? Who are people who are following up with what I'm doing? Do I just move on as if nothing happened? But deep down, I kind of knew that I needed to address it, but I just didn't really know how. And finally, after a few months, there was one night where I couldn't sleep at all. And it was like, there were several nights there I couldn't sleep. But after like, I had tried to go down and record a video and give an update and say, hey, this is what happened. And I just couldn't find the right words. It felt awkward. It didn't feel right. And finally the words kind of came to me. It was like 3 a.m. and I got on my phone notepad and I wrote everything out, every word that I wanted to say, given the career update. And then went downstairs and just recorded it then. I was like, if I'm excited about this now and I can get the words out now, then I can just be done with this. So I posted that video and uploaded it. And that was the career update video. And then after that video that I posted, it was like a weight was off my shoulders. It was like, okay, I got that over with. I've given the people the update. I'm done with that. And then that's right after that weight was lifted off my shoulders, I kind of got into the mentality of like, well, got a whole summer here. I've got a place to stay with my parents and I've got this camera background. I'm going to learn how to make videos. And I think I got some good things to say and a cool story to tell. So
bang. I love that. I love how you broke that down. I've had good conversations with you, but I'd never heard you unpack that story. And I think for folks that watch your content and go to your camps, knowing that story, knowing where you came from, man, it makes a lot of sense now. It makes a lot of sense why you put so much heart into each post, into each video, into each kid that you coach. So I love that. Chopper, you had a similar moment when they said bye-bye. And I think you were sitting in a car too, weren't you?
Same organization. Yeah. I had to go into, Randy Knorr's office, and the trainer tells you that Randy wants to talk to you, and that's a bad sign. So went in there, and it was tough, dude. It's when they tell you they don't want you anymore, it's that moment that we tell kids now, young kids, of like, believe it or not, there's going to come a day where no one wants to give you a uniform. So give it everything you have and stay positive and enjoy this journey while you can. They don't believe you because they're 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 years old, but like, it's real. And when it hits you hard. So same situation. I put on a big boy face while I packed up and hugged all my friends. And the good Lord did put something on my heart right away when it happened, where I instantly thought about my friends who were from the Dominican and Venezuela and Puerto Rico. And like, I'm from America, I'm going to be fine. Yeah. And that was what God told me, was like, at least Frank Diaz is still playing, and Marcos Yepes, and your friends that you care about, they're still chasing their dream, and you're going to be okay. So that held the tears off until I got into my Yukon XL on 22s, where my beautiful wife was waiting, and my dog, Bill Buckner. And, and then I just wept. I wept openly. And, my wife, she just did an incredible job, like she always does, just being there for me. And, she's like, well, what do you want to do? And I said, well, they gave us $860 to drive home. My dreams just got ended. Let's go to Disney World. So we went straight to Disney World. Yep. And, that was the play for us. Yep. And, we took our time getting home. And you're absolutely right, Coach RAC. That drive is therapeutic. It is. It's pretty powerful that you can drive home, and to have my wife with me, and our black lab, Bill Buckner. But yeah, dude, if you haven't gone through it, it's hard to describe, but it's tough. And then it took me 2 years, not 2 months. It took me 2 years before I could watch a baseball game again. And there was a level of like frustration in there, because I had a lot of success even in pro ball. I mean, I was a career 270 hitter at the professional level. Wow. Yeah. So it was hard to watch Jeff Francoeur and Brian McCann and these guys that I played with on all-star teams in pro ball, having success at the highest level. So it was really tough. But if I could tell myself in that moment, that 8 years from that moment, I would win a World Series championship with the San Francisco Giants, like, how much easier would that have made it for me to go through that tough time? So that's what I try to instill in kids, in the micro and in the macro. So within a game, hey, you're 0 for 1, or you made an error. Like, so what? It's okay. What if I could tell you were going to hit 2 home runs today? Would you be okay with it if you were going to make an error, but then hit 2 home runs? Yeah, I would. Well, yeah, dude, then have that mindset. And even if it doesn't happen, at least you were anticipating success all the way through the frustration. And at the end of the game, well, tomorrow I'm going to hit 2 home runs. Like, just have that good vibe of thinking positively. It's really powerful. We had one of our best players this last weekend. He doesn't fail. He hasn't failed. He's young. He's really good, strong Christian family, goes to Costas Christian School. Well, he failed and he cried the first day. He was 0 for the day. And it was tough. I've never seen him like that. Well, the rest of the tournament, I think he had 10 doubles. Seriously. I think he finished the tournament with 6 consecutive doubles. So after his last double, he gets to third on a pass ball and he's got this big smile. And I said, Lucas, what if you could have told yourself 2 days ago that this was how this tournament was going to end for you? Would you have been as sad? He goes, no. I'm like, that's what I'm talking about with the micro. Like, stay positive, expect something good to happen.
Yeah.
And so I don't know. I love it. But yeah, you and I both. Was Bobby Henley the farm director, or who was the guy that had to tell you?
Oh yeah. Yeah. Bobby Henley didn't tell me. No, it was it was a new guy, and he's not there anymore either, but it was Deshaun Watson.
Okay.
Yeah.
Hen's an incredible man. That's a strong Christian man.
He's cool, dude.
Bobby's solid. He was my manager in 05. That's how old I am.
Yeah. Oh, really? Wow.
Oh yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
You'll be getting these grays in a decade or so.
Yeah,
right?
you young
Don't worry
buck.
about it.
Young blood.
Yeah.
Let's go. We're going to close up shop today. I just got a couple of quick shot questions, 30-second answers. And I want to hear them from both of you because you both, not that you specialize in the elite, but you do skew a little older and more advanced, where I'm the feeder system. I get them into the game, and then I pass them on to you guys, and you can nurture them from there. But let's start at the top. Your advice to the T-ball parent. And let's start with RAC, and then Chopper, you bat number 2 here. Advice to the 3, 4, and 5-year-old T-ball parent, RAC.
Yeah, I would say give them the most fun, positive experience that they can, and don't put any unnecessary pressure on them to succeed. Don't give them any expectations. Oh, you got to do this. Give them a great time with their friends and let them enjoy it.
Bang. Completely agree. Make it fun. Make sure it's not boring. Make sure there's stations. If you can coach a little bit, throw the ball into their swing. If they're not hitting off a tee, like that's always awesome. But yeah, make it fun. There are no expectations. They're the best hitter in the universe. They're mini Mike Trout. And yeah, I completely agree. Nailed it.
Yeah. And not that it matters, but for me, I look at the faces of the kid after they hit the ball. I don't care what the defenders are doing behind me. They're 3, they're 4, they're 5. They can all chase the ball. They can wrestle for who cares? I want to see if that kid that just hit that ball, if their grin is just big time. If they're smiling, they're so proud and happy. Yeah. Throw some kickball in there. Use tennis rackets for bats. Doesn't matter. Just make sure they want to come back next year. Advice to the little league parent. So now we're getting into coach pitch, kid pitch. Advice to the little league parent.
Yeah, I would say be there as on the drive home, be very careful and intentional with your words, and don't give any advice right after the game. Oh, you should have done this. You should have done that. I think that kids can see your intentions and where your heart is at by the questions that you ask. So after a good game or after a bad game, don't ask any questions like, well, what were you thinking in this at bat or anything like that. Focus in on if they did something good, maybe ask them a question about that. How did that make them feel? Did they enjoy that? Was that fun? Ask him something like that, but be very careful on the car ride home. I'd say that's the biggest thing.
Yeah, he nailed it on the parent side. I'll go from the coach's side. Be prepared, have station-based plans, make sure we're moving around. It's not boring, and make sure they know it's process over results, dude. The results do not matter. If you mess up, what'd you learn? And if you did have success, cool. Let's do it again. How did it make you feel? I love that you said that, Coach RAC. It's really powerful to get all your senses involved when you're creating memories, whether in the past or future. I remember, I'm going to go over the 30-second mark, so pause the clock. But I remember when I met Hunter Pence, and Hunter said, hey, you're going to get a job with us with the Giants. Start visualizing winning the World Series. And I would have these vivid dreams of tasting the confetti in the parade. And I'll have to send you one of these videos, Coach Ballgame, because I found him. But it's me and Hunter in the parade, like with the confetti spraying on us. I'm like, we did it, Hunter. We did it. But it was manifested in January of 2014, and it didn't come to fruition until Halloween night, October 31st in 2014. But yeah, you got to have those senses.
Bang. One of my favorite episodes of this pod is the Hunter Pence. So good. The most important thing you can do is listen to your little leaguers, and the most important thing you can say is, "I love watching you play the game."
Yeah.
Period. Um, Advice to the travel ball parent. Now we're getting into club, we're getting into elite, that middle school age where it's almost high school time. But I mean, you've got 7U, 8U, 9U. You've got them pretty young. So RAC, the advice to the travel ball parent.
Yeah, this one's tough. I find myself giving the most advice to the travel ball parents. They're the ones who usually come to me for advice the most, because they want to know where to play this. That I think if you're at travel ball age, uh, it's hard for me because it depends a lot on the player and their goals. I think that there's some players that's playing travel ball at ages 12, 13 that are trying to make a high school team. And for those kids, it's going to be a unique circumstance for each one of them. Like if they do want to play in high school, they're going to have to play high level baseball, and they're going to have to make some connections, and they're going to, the caliber of tournaments they're playing in might matter. So it's very individualistic on that regard. But I guess from a parent standpoint, so many of the same principles apply. Make sure that it's fun. I think more than anything, find that a coach that is process over results.
Yep.
Because it's very much a temptation to trophy chase in travel ball and to prioritize winning above all else. And if that's the culture, then some kid who caused a loss is going to get ran over a little bit, and that's not going to create a good positive association in their head with the game. They'll probably hang up the cleats sooner than later. So I would say be very intentional about the coach that you play for in travel ball, just like with any age, but especially with that age.
Before I get to Chopper, let me ask you another question on that note. Why do some coaches chase the trophy in the travel ball world? And by some, I mean most. Is it because they think those kids are going to be able to make it to high school baseball? If they win more trophies, they can do something that is not easy at all, which is play high school ball. Why do you think there's a lot of chasing travel ball trophies?
I think that there's a lot of people out there who want to live vicariously through kids. And I think what happens is they have this perception in their head of what a winner is. And their perception of what a winner is someone who wins. And I think that's just an incomplete perspective of what a winner is, because you can't control winning all the time. And if you want to raise a winner, you probably should focus on how they respond to failure better, especially in a game like baseball, than you focus on them winning at all costs and then getting frustrated when they don't win. That's not a winner. A winner is someone who's failed over and over and over again and still gets back up. So teach them to get back up. Don't get on their case when they don't win. So I think it's a misunderstanding of what a winner is, because I think there's a lot of well-intentioned people that are like, no, not everyone gets a trophy. We're raising winners here. I'm like, yes, I think we absolutely should raise winners, but a lot of people just give up when they fail enough times. And so teach them how to lose well is more important. I think that's how you really, really make the winners.
Chopper, let's go to that question first. Why, and you're in this community a lot, and sometimes you have to talk to these coaches and be like, you want to know my opinion? That was very embarrassing what you did. Why does that guy chase that trophy?
I think he nailed it. I think they're living vicariously, or they identify, right? Like, oh, I'm the second ranked team in the South region of, the Midwest. It's like, okay, cool. Are you nice to your kids? Do they love playing for you? Do they love the game? Do they not find their identity in whether they win or lose? Are they resilient? Do they cry after every at bat if it doesn't go their way? Because you're not winning if that's the case. And there's young men on my team that still cry. And it's like, as a coach, it's like, hey, dude, I know that's just passion because you love and you care about it. I get that. We need to teach you how to channel that a different way. That's give a crap, right? That's caring. But those tears, now you're making it about you and not about the group. So we want to stay in that kind of that fountain mindset. But yeah, I think that's what it is. I think a good travel ball coach tries to get better every day. And they don't talk about other clubs. They don't talk about other players. They don't make excuses for their players. I hear a lot of coaches a lot of times talk about, Well, that other team did X, Y, and Z. If a team beats me or embarrasses my group, I love it.
Yeah.
We've talked about this, Coach Ballgame, where I'll shake his hand. You guys did a heck of a job. And I'll take notes and I will go back to our group like, hey, we got work to do. Isn't that exciting? Isn't that exciting that we don't have it all figured out and we get to work on this? And everything that happened is today, that's my fault. And I will teach you guys how to navigate it moving forward. So don't give it a second thought. That's on me. You guys go get some pizza with mom and dad and some Dairy Queen, right? But isn't this cool that we got some stuff we get to work on to try to keep getting better every day? What a blessing. That's the right narrative. And that's the right mindset.
Bang. Love that notepad you keep in your back pocket too, Chopper. And you just write these things down mid-game.
Yeah, man.
You give it 24 hours and you talk about it the next day. That's a huge deal. Lastly, it is not easy to make a high school team. The advice to the kid that doesn't make that high school team. Let's go there. And maybe we'll start with Chopper because you both coach high school baseball now. But the advice to that kid.
Yeah, this is a really exciting one for me too. First of all, you want to get down next to him and you want to just sit in it with him. It's similar to Coach RAC and I when we got cut, right? So you want to sit in there and allow that frustration, that grief, that sadness. But once that passes, they have a choice to make. Do they double down on the process and they get after it and they go the old Michael Jordan route that we've all heard before? Not that they're going to be the greatest in the history of the world, but like, do you want to double down on the process and prove coach wrong versus proving him right? Or are you passionate about something else? Like, what is your passion? What if I gave you one thing right now where you could visualize having fun doing, what is it? It might not be baseball. And if it's not, go do that. Go take pictures. Go do what is your true passion and make that your career if possible. So I had this as an athletic director this year where I had parents or other coaches say like, oh, we can't make cuts. And it's like, I disagree. I think if a kid doesn't know how to make themselves an asset, and that might not be just with their play, Coach Ballgame and Coach RAC, that might be with their energy that they bring every day. Hey, Coach RAC, you weren't the best player, but we're not going another day without you. We need you. Now, you may not be able to play a lot, but we're going to make you the team manager because you're the GOAT and we got to have your energy and you're going to add to our program and our culture. If a kid doesn't know how to do that yet, maybe they're not passionate about the sport and they need to find something else, but that's powerful instead of just saying like, all right, little Jimmy, yeah, you're on the team. Everyone makes the team. I don't know. I'm not sure. And I know I went over my 30-second again. I apologize. That's the spring rule. I'm going over the spring rule, going longer than 30 seconds.
My buddy Springer. RAC, you got anything to add there for the kid that didn't make that high school team? And maybe with the parents as well.
Yeah. Yeah. I love what you said, Shop. Like, I think figuring out what the kid's passion is. Like, do they want to, because some kids will just want to get after it again. Like, okay, I didn't make the team, but I really want to be a part of the team. In which case, yeah, come alongside them and be like, all right, right now you need to get a little bit faster. You need, I could see you contributing to this team. If you had some wheels, we could use you as a pinch runner. We can stick you in the outfield, this kind of thing. You got to work on this, and this. And, I think to get there, I would recommend doing this. This is what I did when I played to train these things, and give them a plan. And then if you see that some kid's willing to put in that kind of work to make the team, then it's like, it doesn't even matter that much if they improve marginally. It's like, if you have a kid with that kind of mentality, that's kind of the kid you want to have around the clubhouse anyways, So I feel like that kid, if they put in that work, they can make the team the next year. And then how big of a story of overcoming is that? Like, oh, you didn't make the team, but then you put in the work and then you did make the team. So I think you can give a kid a cool opportunity to overcome by doing that. But that's where, again, with the words I guess my advice to that, to kids would just be very dependent on what their goals are. And if it's a kid who's like, well, I don't know, my parents want me to play baseball, but I don't really want to do it. I'd kind of rather be doing this over here. Then I'd be like, that's awesome. Go do that over there. And so, yeah, I think it just depends on the kid.
Yep. Beautiful. Well, Coach RAC, I love, as an elder statesman, as the grandpop, as Papa Ballgame of the RAC camps and the bougie camps and the not your average baseball camps, I am just so proud that you are creating this culture of coaches can be really fun. and coaches can have a major impact on a child's life. I love that you're looking through that lens and you're creating great parents and great coaches in not just the baseball world, but the youth sports world every day that you wake up and create content. And I say, keep this NYABC thing going. I think it's going to be huge, beyond measure. It's going to change the game of baseball. And I know last year you didn't make any money doing it. You're doing it for free again this year. But trust me when I say that don't matter. The impact matters. So keep doing it. As much as I can show up for you, I will. Whatever you need me to do, play the bongo, tell a story, give out nicknames. I'm ready to go. So a big fan, and thanks for coming on, brother.
Yeah, well, it's an honor hearing that from you, man. I'll tell you what, dude, the last NYABC and getting to see you in your element was one of the more fun things I've gotten to experience. Me and all the other coaches were like gathered around. It's like, we're watching a master at work here. Let's like, I was like, no, pat out and all, dude. So, yeah, dude, I'm excited. I think we got some really special things. And I think both of us have a similar mission, and it's fun to be pushing in the same direction.
Well, we got Chopper
dude.
coming to Austin with me, and so we might have to get Chopper involved with the NYABC too. He's
Oh, yeah.
6'5", just a bearded wonder. I mean, the kids just respond to the dude. So there you go.
I'm in. Hey, you let me know, Coach RAC, if you need me there, I'm in. I'm really thankful for what you're doing. I love that you're volunteering at your church. I love that you're being involved in the community. You're paying it forward. We're lucky to know what we know about this game, and we don't have it all figured out, but to continue to pass it to the next generation really matters. And the thing I'm most proud about you is you're showing kind of Christ's unconditional love. And that's a big deal, dude. So I appreciate you. We appreciate your time, and keep doing what you're doing, dude. Proud of you, dude.
Thanks, brother. I appreciate it.
Good job.
Thank you.
You're the GOAT. Have a great day, man. See ya.
All right. Thanks, guys.
Bye-bye.
See ya. Coach RAC, rack 'em.
There you go, buddy. Yeah, great kid. I mean, gosh, what is he? 24, 25, maybe 26. I don't know. Just a young kid, but mature beyond years. And
he gets it.
I jotted down some really good notes. I think I need his video editor to really clip these because he's got some great content. But I'll get some of these great quotes on our social media. But that was a good episode. What's your takeaway?
Dude, it's guys that, he gets it. And that's the thing, is when you get it, it shows in your content. It shows in your actions. It shows in what you feel is important to say. And so I love that he's doing it. I love that God put tests and trials in his life, and he passed those tests, right? Like, that's the cool thing, is like, we get to decide how we respond to adversity. And he's chosen an incredible path to pay it forward and to impact those around him in a positive way. And God's blessing him for it. I love it. I'm a big fan of Coach RAC. I had never met him before. Obviously you had, but it doesn't surprise me. He's more impressive than I thought he was. And I thought he was very impressive without meeting him, but awesome dude, man. And my prayer for him is that he continues to be blessed, and I'm sure he will be, because his heart's in the right place. How about you, Coach?
Man, again, same thing as far as what he's created from all the failures that came. And it just makes me think from the lens of a parent, embrace every failure, embrace every high leverage moment where they freak out or they strike out, because when you're playing the long game, man, he would not be the coach he is today. He would not be the content creator he is, the influencer, whatever you want to call it, without all that stuff. And to have his parents just cheerleading him on from the sidelines is huge. I also really love both of your takes on how do we approach travel ball parenting, and then that kid that didn't do that very difficult thing, which is make a high school team. What do you say to them, and how do you say it? So superb, really great. Loved every minute of it, man. We are trying to track down next week's guest. I think it's going to be a good one, whoever it is. And if it's not, then we'll bring in Thanksgiving week with a beautiful bang. Anything to close us out, Chaparoo?
Yeah. I get a pretty cool, unique opportunity to be Bo's coach with his friends and then his parents when he plays football and basketball. And I remember my first tournament I went to watch football, very high level. I mean, shoot, they're the national champions for the 8-year-old division, which is silly. I didn't know that was such a thing, but it is. But I remember the first few tournaments where they got into these championship games and they lost, right? And it was awesome. And my whole thing was like, dude, what a cool experience. Like they'll figure it out. They'll overcome it. But like, what a special moment. There was 15 seconds left. And they had to go all the way down the whole field. And then the other team made this incredible play. So like we made a great play and they made an even better play. And it was like this wide-eyed amazement and joy from these games. But my lens wasn't like, we got to win this game. And like, you could feel that vibe of like tension and fear and panic in the stands. And it's like, no, guys, they're 7 and 8 years old. This is incredible. And whatever happens, we got to celebrate this, you know? And so have that in the stands, have that as the coach where, yeah, no, anyone that's coached against me or played against my teams, we're a flipping handful, right? Like it's tough. No, I'm serious. Like it's tough. We're going to put pressure on our opponent. And some people think that's a bad thing, and that's okay. But like, I'm not trying to be mean. I'm just trying to be the very best version of our group. And then the hope is we face a mirror and one team wins and the other team grows. But have that wide-eyed amazement. It is not about the win. It is not about the loss. It's about trying to be the very best version of yourself and then extracting growth from whatever happens. Did you win with honor? Did you learn from getting beat? And thank your opponent. Hey, thank you, dude. That's going to make us so much better. We needed it. Thank you. So that's what I got, dude. You're the best.
You're the
Appreciate
best.
you.
There's genius in that. That's my quote of the day. There's genius in that. I'll see you in Austin, brother. It's coming up on us big time.
Can't wait.
I can't wait. And now I'm going to go pee-pee.
Bang.